Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we keep celebrating a Direct that had everything, except the things we're about to talk about. She will wake only with the power of number 3 Triforce sealed in a palace in Hyrule. So the Nintendo Cartridge Society is sealed in a palace in Hyrule with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always, joined by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. Can I admit something to you, Patrick?
Yeah.
I had never considered the meaning of the name Discord as a chat, app
Okay.
until just now. Because earlier today, I was looking at a website and it had a headline about disagreement.
Yes.
And it was plea deal Discord.
Right.
I just think it's really funny.
And you thought you were going to join the plea deal Discord?
Yeah, that's right. No, I just think I just think it's funny that they named their chat app they named it a word that means to disagree.
Well, but is that true? I assume that Discord was like discourse in that it is qualitatively neutral.
So Discord,
Yes.
according to the New Oxford American Dictionary,
Thank you.
disagreement between people
Mm.
or a lack of harmony between notes sounding together.
Oh, so you're playing you're playing Discord, but you should be playing Datcord.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go home. Yeah. Well, do you find it odd because we have so few disagreements in our Discord?
Well, I mean, I just think it's funny to name your
Right.
social media app argument or mad at each other.
I mean, that's what Elon Musk should have named Twitter when he bought it.
That's true.
It's much better.
That's true.
Argue.com.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd sign up for an
Truth
argue.com.
in advertising.
Yeah, that'd be good. Mark, we are going to be talking about the things that weren't in the Nintendo Direct today. But before we do that, just want to shout out the Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8 or 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries like NCS Arcade.
Yes, where this month for April, we are going to be talking about Okami, the PlayStation 2 original. So really looking forward to that discussion. And also in March, we talked about Donkey Kong 94.
Yes.
And we are going to record a listener feedback episode about Donkey Kong 94. But in order to do that, we need your feedback.
We need your feedback. So email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
And I get it. We've all been really excited about this Direct. Who can even think about Donkey Kong 94? We need you to think about Donkey Kong 94. Put those thoughts into words. Email those words to us. We'll read those words on an episode that goes out to everyone who follows us on the Patreon for free. So whether you are supporting us there or not, feel free to send us an email. We would love to have your thoughts about a great Game Boy game in that episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Join the Discord, regardless of what it means. Send us an email. We'll send you an invitation. Mark, I think that's it. Let's get into it. Let's discuss the things that we're missing from this Nintendo Direct. I would say more challenging an exercise than usual.
I felt the same way. Looking back on it and coming up with things that were missing, I felt like it was a pretty robust, pretty well-balanced Direct.
Right. And we've done this format before where we're because we build up expectations. Obviously, we did predictions episodes. You and I refuse to make any predictions. But I feel like there's almost always a bunch of stuff where you're like, hey, yeah, where the heck is that?
Well, especially during a regular Nintendo Direct.
Totally.
Where a lot of times we've heard rumors about things, or there have been previously announced games that have been gone silent for a long time. So you're like, is this where Tears of the Kingdom is going to show up again?
Right. Well, and we also did have a Nintendo Direct the week before.
Right.
So that fired a couple guns. So where I feel look, I'm sure there are still things that Nintendo is working on that will even come out this year that we don't know about yet.
Alarmo 2.
Alarmo 2.0, Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo 2.0 will absolutely hit shelves, and no one is predicting it. But yeah, I mean, like there's going to be something, but it feels like they served up a full platter of stuff, and we're like, here you go, we're ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot we don't know,
Sure.
but yeah, it did. I did leave it feeling like it was a pretty well-rounded presentation.
It brought me back to thinking about this and like coming up with my my entries for what wasn't there. Brought me back to the show that we did, the live show that we did with the Unranked podcast, where we did what was missing from the Nintendo Direct, and how fun that was.
Yeah, that was right after E3 2019. It must have been.
No, 2018.
Oh, 2018.
I think it was 2018.
Okay.
Maybe it was 20. No, because if it was 20, it must have been 2019. Because if it was 2018, it would have just been Smash.
That's right.
And
yeah.
what was missing would be anything that's not Smash.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it was 2019. And that episode's in the feed. You can go back and check it out. But yeah, I don't know. Mark and I have both prepared a list of a couple things that we thought were missing from the Direct. I don't know what's on Mark's list. He does not know what's on my list. How many entries do you have here, Mark?
It was 2018, by the way.
It was 2018.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess there was a lot to talk about. What wasn't at the 2018 Direct, because it
would have been everything.
Smash Brothers focus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I feel good about, and 6 in total.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I feel good about, and 8 in total.
Okay, great.
No, wait, is that wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 5 that I feel good about, 7 in total.
Okay.
Or 4 that I feel good about, 1 that I feel okay about, and then 2 more. So would you like to go first, or would you like to go second?
I'll let you go first.
All right. So this is gonna. I'm starting with something that has been like my sort of persistent prediction that could not, as it seems, be further from the minds of the people working on the Switch 2, is any kind of dual screen mode or the ability to cast directly to the TV while holding
switch
the
it
thing
up,
in your
baby.
hand. Yep, switch up, not a reality here. So, and going along with that, no classic library for DS, 3DS, or Wii U games. That's just not part of what the system is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I just think it'll be really interesting when we get to that point where, because slowly we're chipping away. We are up to GameCube.
I was thinking about this, that the Nintendo Switch Online, now the Nintendo Classics
Mm-hmm.
collection, started in 2018, right?
Yeah.
With the NES. So it has been 7 years since that started, and we've gone through now a bunch of generations, right? We just like straight up console generations. We've done 4 now, right? The GameCube will be the 4th one.
Yep.
The next step is Wii.
Right, and you have like the handhelds slotted in there.
The handhelds, yes.
Of course, Virtual Boy is nowhere to be found, and
a crime, of course.
But yeah,
where my Game & Watch is.
Like I think we have exhausted the obvious additions.
Mm-hmm.
And even GameCube, we talked about before. Like, does it make sense? Yes. Would they give up the opportunity to remake these GameCube games? I guess that it's not like it doesn't have to be one or the other, because as we saw with like Mario versus Donkey Kong, that was a
that's a GBA game, but they also
that they remade,
right,
and
but
sold for $50.
But they didn't put that game on.
Right. So what I'm saying
MSO,
is, like, even though GameCube is going to be part of Nintendo Classics, they could still remake GameCube games and sell them at full price. But yeah, I mean, where do they go from here? The logical next step is the Nintendo DS. But at some point, even possibly in the Switch 2 generation, they would literally just run out of systems to be able to add to it.
Yeah.
And so what It just
let
raises
alone
the question,
yeah,
like,
of where do they go?
how else do you like
Yes.
increase the value of it?
Right. And like the next step you do in the handheld requires two screens. I do still think that there is possibly room for this, like with your Switch 2 working with either like a Switch 1 or casting to another Switch 2, which could maybe either be like on a TV or whatever.
I mean, there is that USB-C port up top that
Right, but more than that, the fact that they talked about like game sharing, right? Because game sharing is effectively another Switch streaming the game from your Switch, right? So like the only one that's actually running the game is the primary Switch.
and I also wouldn't just like discard it happening on the Switch 2 itself. I think where, especially with like mouse controls,
Sure. Yeah.
you could, with the mouse controls, theoretically, you could
Yeah, play the whole thing
play
on the
the whole
TV.
thing on your TV.
Yeah.
So, and the Switch 2 screen is a little bit bigger. Like, I'm not sure how it compares in size to the Wii U gamepad, but you could play 3DS or like 2DS. Sorry,
Yes.
you can play DS games
Yes.
on the. You can play DS games on the gamepad, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
you
so it
could.
doesn't seem it doesn't seem impossible to me that they will bring DS games eventually to the Switch too.
Yeah. Totally possible. But my dream of a peripheral that is a big clunky screen that attaches to the top, or that you are somehow casting to. There is some tech in the dock itself, but it seems like that is mostly like cooling stuff, right? Like we don't know that the dock itself has any like processing power, right?
It doesn't seem that way,
It doesn't seem that way,
or at least they didn't talk about it.
right?
So
So yeah, that is also not likely. But if it is able to like share stuff, if I have like a docked Switch 2, why could I not like game share to that Switch playing on the TV?
yeah, I mean it's an interesting idea.
So anyway, that's not there. That was missing from the Switch 2 Direct.
My first item that was missing from the Switch 2 Direct is the Nintendo Switch Online playtest.
Yeah.
So on
Great.
the one hand, not surprising at all that this didn't show up, because I feel like Nintendo, generally speaking, is pretty direct in the way that they will like announce or advertise something. Like and they were very clear in like for example, let me just back up. Like Metroid Prime 4 was announced for Switch. It will release on Switch. It'll also get a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, but like they announced it as a Switch title. It's coming to Switch. They didn't change it and be like, now it's a Switch 2 exclusive.
Right. There was no bait and switch 2.
And exactly. And
which was also true of Breath of the Wild.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I feel like they were really clear with the information that they provided for the Nintendo Switch Online playtest that this is a test of features that could be available in Nintendo Switch Online.
Right. But does not represent a game
Right.
in development or whatever.
And so at the same time, you know, there was lots of speculation that maybe the mysterious C button
Right.
would have something to do with that, and like
Really
you know,
does
it'd be
not.
like a
Yeah.
PlayStation Home type experience, or you know, like whatever that Nintendo Switch Online playtesting is. So it remains a mystery. Like, what was the playtest for?
Yes.
What did Nintendo get out of it?
Mhm.
What, I don't know. It's all so mysterious. Should we expect anything like that could be like 1-to-1 mapped?
Will we be able to draw a straight line?
Yeah.
Right. Like we had seen, you know, when the Wii U was first being revealed, you know, like a year and a half before it actually came out, there were a lot of tech demos that we could eventually see the fruits of in terms of like mostly downloadable games
Yeah.
that Nintendo would put out later, or mini games in Nintendo Land. Is that the name of that thing?
Yep.
Okay, great. But yes, will we see the fruits of the online playtest in a Switch game in the future? We don't know. I will say that there was an aesthetic similarity between some parts of the playtest and Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Oh, interesting.
And just like the idea that there is a persistent play world that is responding to the changes you are making to the world, right? Like in Donkey Kong, you are pulling up rocks and like throwing them around. you do pull up materials from the ground and then like put them somewhere else. That's a persistently like changing game world. So I don't know if any of that's related. Probably not. They're like right on top of each other in release, less than a year apart. So probably not. But that was the very early images of Bonanza. I remember thinking, oh, there's a little bit of the online playtest happening here.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, no whisper or boo of the playtest.
Yeah, and I kind of think when they bring it back, that they won't say anything to that effect.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be recognizable at all.
Right? Who knows? Who knows? Very good first thing that was missing from the direct, Mark. Next up, I'm gonna say Animal Crossing anything.
Mm-hmm.
No Animal Crossing. We did, of course, obviously get a lot of time with Mario Kart World, the best-selling game on the Switch, but Wither, the second best-selling game on the Switch, right?
Right.
And sort of on top of that, no mention of Animal Crossing being improved performance-wise by the Switch 2, right? Obviously, we got the Switch 2 editions for Kirby and the Forgotten Land and for Super Mario Party Jamboree and both the Zelda games. But in addition to that, there was a list of games that would get just sort of like passive free improvements that are just sort of by virtue of the fact that they're running on. I don't even think it's by virtue of the fact that they're running on Switch 2. They like went through and said these games have performance improvement that's free. And they refer to them as free updates. So these games are ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, 3D World, Clubhouse Games, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain. Some of those, I think the new updates or free updates have to do with the game sharing mechanic, but something like ARMS, that's not part of the game sharing program. Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, none of those are part of the game sharing program. So all these games get like a little bit of a performance boost in some capacity for free by playing them on Switch 2. Animal Crossing's not even on that list.
But like, I feel like all the games you listed, other than Big Brain Academy, people had complaints about the frame rate or the performance of the game. So, you know, like playing Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2, the fact that it will perform better seems great.
Yeah, totally.
I don't feel like the complaint around Animal Crossing was that it was framey or it looked bad or anything like that.
No, but it is like Animal Crossing is load times crazy.
That's
right.
true.
Like it took forever to get in there, and like just the connectivity with, you know, even if they just like mess around with connecting to other people's islands. And,
that
like,
will
that
be
kind of
interesting
stuff.
to see if that is faster.
I don't
Switch
know.
2, but I don't know if it will be because it doesn't seems like a like networking issue and not necessarily a
Well,
like
right, but I mean, like, you know how you would invite people to your island, and when they were on their way, you would have to sit in like a loading screen,
right.
and it's like, why? Why don't I just get to keep running around until they just like pop in there?
Well, maybe that's an improvement for the inevitable Switch to Animal Crossing entry.
Right.
But I do think, I mean, you raised a good point. I have Animal Crossing and like Splatoon on my list as a single thing.
Sure.
And it's true that they're missing.
So let's talk about Splatoon as well. But
yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I have a separate entry for another game, but I feel like Animal Crossing and Splatoon, and you can tack on, you know, like other Nintendo stalwart franchises to it, like Smash or something. I didn't really have the expectation that all of these things were going to be there, or that,
right?
But it's never in doubt that Animal Crossing is going to come. Like you said, it's the second biggest game on Switch. They're gonna make another Animal Crossing,
right?
So the fact that they didn't show it off here doesn't really like mean anything to me. Same with Splatoon. There's going to be another Splatoon thing. So the fact that it didn't show up here doesn't faze me. It doesn't make me be like, I can see the argument for, well, I'm going to hold off on a Switch 2 until Animal Crossing comes out because that's the game that's really important to me. But I don't think that if you bought one day one that and you were really looking forward to Animal Crossing, that they're going to like rug pull you and be like, do you know what? No Animal Crossing. I guess they could,
They
Nintendo's
could, but why would they?
Right,
Like
yeah.
Animal Crossing has been such a high seller. It's also, and I think the reason that Animal Crossing and Splatoon are both like they're well paired for an entry like this is that like both became megastars on Switch One, right?
Yeah.
Like, and in not necessarily the same way that like all these other franchises hit big with these sort of like nostalgia plays, capstones to series. Like these are just like the next entries in the good entries in good series, right? And just like Pikmin 4, right, is another one that's kind of like that. And Pikmin 4, also Pikmin not present here either, but and obviously that's a much lower scale. But anyway, just I wanted to bring up Animal Crossing and bring up just this sort of like free performance upgrades to a handful of games. But it is funny because like, what was performance of ARMS an issue? Was that an issue? ARMS? Were people like too framey?
Yeah, no,
Not
that
enough good textures.
yeah.
What's happening there?
Yeah. I guess nice to see arms heads getting a little love.
If you say so, Mark. Do you have anything else to add about like Splatoon, or is that just more
No,
like
no, no.
in
Just
the
kind of
abstract?
like
Okay.
like you brought up, they have become. I think Nintendo has 4 premier franchises now:
Yes.
Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Splatoon. And so half of those were represented in some form
Yeah.
in the direct, and Animal Crossing and Splatoon were not.
Yep. Yep. Well, and we did just get just last year. No, just last year is when the like side order DLC like actually came out. So like Splatoon's pretty fresh in that regard.
Yeah. Yep. So do you want to go again?
I will go again, Mark. Yes. This one is just anything related to Mii's. Especially when the direct the week before, we had Tomodachi Life, right?
Right.
Where it's like, okay, obviously you're gonna have to like have a bunch of Mii's on your Switch in order for this thing to work or be like interesting or relevant to you, in the way that you would have on your 3DS or your Wii or whatever. I don't know about you, but like I have very few Mii's on my Switch. Do you have a bunch of Mii's on your Switch?
No. I'm sure I created one at least at
Yeah.
some point. For like Mario Kart or Smash or something. But
Right.
no, I think other than the one, I can't think of any others that I have on there.
So Switch Sports wasn't like the most successful game, but that was driven by Mii's, and it's just just kind of interesting that like that seems like they're obviously sticking around, but like not really front and center here as part of this thing.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads nicely into my next one, which is Whimsy. I felt like it was a really enjoyable presentation and that there was a lot of cool stuff in it. And I think some of the games showed off that kind of like Nintendo twinkle
Absolutely.
that I expect. But I feel like the direct itself and the system itself is really lacking in like whimsy or fun. They've really doubled down on the system itself being really utilitarian, just being like the tool that you use to access the fun things that we're doing, but the thing itself is not
Right.
particularly
Not inherently fun.
What's
so I did have an entry that I had put in my I don't feel great about these that is just dumb little sketches or funny voiceovers. Like that the presentation itself was void of any, like if there was humor in the presentation, it came from what was happening in the games themselves.
Yes.
And not from I was just like, I just need like a quick vibe check, just like is this actually something that's normally present? And I went to the 3DS like reveal or launch Nintendo Direct, and it's Iwata standing with someone in a Mario like mascot costume and a Luigi mascot costume, and they're doing bits about the year of Luigi and Mario and Luigi Dream Team and like all this stuff, and it's like super silly, and then they like get into talking about the games in too much detail, and it is like definitely a worse kind of presentation. But I miss a little bit of that whimsy, like you say.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the Switch Direct the Switch
Yes.
presentation from January 2017 had like um a sense of humor, like a light touch. It had Koizumi like lounging on the
Lounging on
couch,
the couch.
like it had kind of just a certain
It had the Splatoon 2 guy doing the shape
yes
of the number
of the
2 with his
two, and
body.
yeah, when he's like dressed in a lab coat, like
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. He was doing like an in-universe reveal.
yes, like all of this stuff, like and I feel like that is something that Nintendo has really dialed in. Like they have
Yes.
become much more subdued in that way. And I think you could see it over the course of the Switch generation, and it's gotten us to where we are now, where they just don't have the same like sense of humor or the same like sparkle. And uh it's not that they're like boring, but it's like you were saying that the presentations and the I feel like the console itself has become a vessel to the
Right.
kind of like fun interactions that we expect from a Nintendo console or from like a Nintendo experience, but that the system itself does not elicit that same joy
Right.
that
And the presentation itself doesn't.
yeah.
Or like on its own merits, but like does so through the games that it shows, which like is I don't really think this is a bad thing. It's something that I miss a little bit, but like, I wrote like funny voiceover, and I'm sure the next time we get an Indie World Showcase it'll be back, but like there was nothing like that in this direct.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that just like we talked about on Tuesday with the eShop music,
Mhm.
and you brought up that like Microsoft and Sony, like or even you go to the Play Store or the App Store, they don't have music,
Right.
that's playing or anything through it. And it's true they don't, but I think that was something that set Nintendo apart. People really think back fondly on that, like Wii music,
Right.
and they've made a very conscious choice to move away from that and to be a little more like buttoned up in that regard. I think you see it in the and I hope this is not stepping on one of yours, but you see it in like the UI
Hmm.
of the Switch 2, which is just like a refined version of the Switch, which makes sense, but no need to completely reinvent the wheel. And it has served them well, but I do like, what is the benefit to Nintendo in being like everybody else?
Yeah, I mean that is a great point, and maybe they're just like, well, we're not like everybody else because we make Nintendo games,
Right.
right? And that's enough of a distinguishing feature. Well, and like hardware is so interesting, right? Because it is something that you spend a lot of money on, and then that you like becomes your portal into the world of video games for years. Um, and if there's something like annoying about it, that's going to annoy you 100 times over the course of a year, whereas if you're playing a game that may annoy you 10 times over the course of you playing it, you know what I mean? That like they just kind of want to sanding down those edges, whether they're like edges of inconvenience or just of character. I think they all sort of get sanded off the same.
I think that's true, but I think, like you run there's no way to tell. History will show one way or the other. But I really think you
And is written by the winners.
but I really think what you risk is like in slowly moving away from that kind of stuff is the love that people have for iconic gadgets. Like you think
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to, like the Super Nintendo controller or the Super Nintendo or an N64 controller, like all of those kind of things, they're special. Looking at them is fun. There is something fun about the design. And there's I feel like they really with the Switch 2, there's not even colored Joy-Cons. Like you don't even have
Right,
the
right.
option. And it's an open question, like what will Joy-Con 2, what configurations will those come in? Because the system itself has those highlight colors
Yeah.
of the so maybe there's special edition systems that have that. And so it's not that the system is bad. It's not that taking away the whimsy is necessarily bad, but I wonder what they're giving up by doing that, because am I going to look back on a Switch 2 and think really fondly of the actual design of the thing?
Sure.
And I don't know that that's true. I don't know that there are iPhones, there are iPads, there are things that you like look at and you're like, yeah, that's iconic. And then there's a lot of in between.
Totally,
And
yeah.
so maybe this is an in between system and they'll get back to something more iconic, but
Well, what
I
what's
don't know.
what's interesting about that is that that is like a technology and media wide problem, right? That the technical limitations of one generation become the aesthetic preferences of the next, right? So, like if you like scan lines in arcade games, or like chunky pixels, or um, in like the warping that comes with like a VHS tape, or like film grain, all of these things are now aesthetic choices that people like to make because they were part of the medium failing or not like being versatile enough when they were growing up. And as the technology limitations are lifted, we have fewer of those aesthetic signifiers just all around. So like, yeah, I wonder what will the aesthetic preferences of people 30 years from now be that grew up with the Switch 1 and Switch 2? Are there technical limitations that are presenting themselves visually or in terms of audio that people will try to replicate in the future?
Yeah, that's a great point. You can't tell when you're in it, but
Yeah.
I do. It is one thing that I miss is like the fun, just like you looking at it and having it be fun. And they have moved away from that. I'm not entirely sure that that's the best long term choice.
Which honestly sounds like an argument for Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour being a built-in title, right? Like that being like a weird little thing that is that they are launching with the Switch 2 that like shows you how to use it, and you're like playing as a little guy like on the Joy-Con 2s, and maybe you go inside the system and there are little games that you discover in there. That could be the kind of thing that a kid now who gets a hold of like their dad's Switch, or is lucky enough to have one of their own or whatever, playing one at a friend's house, that they are playing that game because it's packed in and because it didn't cost anything, and that they lose hours in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that can become like the thing that someone else is replicating in an indie game 20 years from now.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in short, I like Nintendo because it is different, and not that they have lost that entirely, just that sometimes, I worry about the direction. Well, I wonder why they're making some of the choices that they're making.
Right. Well, and I wonder if they're just like, you know what, we'll do whatever little weird things in the years to come, right? Like Switch 2 will have its Ring Fit Adventure equivalent. It
Uh-huh.
will have its Labo equivalent. It will have its Mario Kart Home Tour equivalent.
And they've been very transparent about the Switch 2 being like a better Switch.
Yes.
We worked to improve the Switch and make it, and they called out very directly in some interview where they're like, we're not saying Nintendo will never make a wild swing like a Wii, or something like that in the future. That's just not what this system is.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know.
But a very good point. All right. My next, what are we missing from the Switch 2 Direct is something that we saw a lot in the predictions. No creative suite.
That's right.
No special new Mario Paint game. No Mario Maker game of any kind. No creative application of the mouse. The mouse is genuinely being used for like gaming applications. I mentioned the Mii's earlier. We don't even know if you can use the mouse to make Mii's.
Mm-hmm.
Like clicking on options and like all that kind of stuff. I assume you can, but like they didn't demo that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, and this, I play console games and handheld games. I really don't play games on a PC, so I am not often in a place where I am using a mouse to game, but I do use a mouse in creative pursuits all the time, right? Or just as part of work. And that's not at all what we saw the mouse is being used for here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to me how in the presentation the mouse features were almost like an afterthought. Like they didn't spend, not an afterthought, but they didn't spend that much time on it.
Yeah.
For being something that they kept hidden for so long.
Right.
It was more just like, and they can be used as a mouse. And then that,
Yeah, well, so like it's interesting. After we released our episode on Thursday with Connor, I got a text from my buddy being like, "Hey, so what do you think about like the mouse features? Like you mentioned them, but like didn't actually get into like whether you're excited to use the Joy-Con as a mouse, and like why would you be excited for that?" And you know, my stance was like, yeah, like creative suite stuff that doesn't exist yet. That's what I guess I would be excited for. But it's not really as though Nintendo made the case to
Mm-hmm.
be excited for mouse controls, right? They were like drag and drive, drag and drive, the wheelchair
Uh-huh.
basketball one uses it, but they weren't like, and it's fun because that's how you play it,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, and that I also leads nicely into my next like item that was missing from the Switch 2 Direct, which is a casual party game like 1-2 Switch and Nintendo Land. And
Yes.
previously I had made the prediction that we wouldn't see one of those, that
Yeah.
Nintendo was phasing those out. And you could maybe argue that Switch 2 Welcome Tour
I don't know.
yeah, exactly.
It's not social though.
It's
It's a
not.
single, which is weird that they made this like hyper like gimmicky experience a solely single player thing.
Right. But also, well, there are mini games in it. And so,
Yeah,
but I
but
don't know if the mini games
I don't
are
know.
multiplayer or not. But I feel like, like the fact that there's no, like party game of the equivalent of 1-2 Switch to show off the mouse controls, to show like why this is fun or interesting and like
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Like you pointed out, it really, when they talked about mouse controls, it really was in service of like game applications where, hey, in Civilization 7 you can now
Right.
use a mouse and like all that kind of stuff.
And in Metroid Prime 4, yeah.
Right.
I will say the only thing that like butts up against this a teeny bit is Mario Party Jamboree.
I know, but I don't really
It's still a
count.
Mario Party game.
Well, and it's not new. There is the new stuff,
Right.
but it's not like they created. And so yeah, no. I see your point though, because the Jamboree TV heavily features the game chat stuff,
Mhm.
and that is a feature that is exclusive to Switch 2.
And mouse games.
Oh, and mouse games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe Jamboree TV fills that like void in the lineup.
The only reason why I don't actually want to count it is that like it's still part of Super Mario Party Jamboree, right? So like you still need to have that game or buy the $80
Right.
Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, right? That it is not like an accessible price point where you could just like pop on. If you could buy Jamboree TV separately, like the add-on part separately, then I'd say like, yeah, that fits the bill. But it's not. It's a weird like DLC pack basically for the original Super Mario Party.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like just interesting to not have that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
agree.
it's been a feature of Nintendo console launches for so many years now.
Yeah, well, and sometimes becomes their biggest success.
Yeah.
Right. Also packed in the biggest success packed in with the system. So whatever. My next thing that was missing from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is social media integration of any kind. Obviously we can no longer share screen grabs or videos to Twitter or Facebook, right? They're both deactivated.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And it's not as though Nintendo has pivoted to like Blue Sky or anything like that. That this any of these social media integrations from the previous generation, they've already been sunsetted and they have not offered a replacement for them.
Yeah, Nintendo seems so interested in keeping everybody in their ecosystem, and because like with the new Nintendo Switch app, which will be the renamed version of the Nintendo Switch Online app,
Yeah.
Screenshots that you take on your Switch will automatically be uploaded to the app.
Oh, they will?
Yes, it'll be like the first
That's
it'll be
cool.
like the last, I think I was reading like 100 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that makes it much easier to facilitate sharing on like a social
Right.
network of your choice. And that way Nintendo doesn't have to be the middleman in any of that. They don't have to keep up with APIs or,
Right.
feel like they're endorsing one platform or another.
Right.
But yeah, and it keeps people, but it is just another reason for people to download the Nintendo Switch app or use it more
Yeah,
frequently.
that's interesting. Yeah.
This is only tangentially related. Can we talk about Nintendo Today for
Sure.
a second? Is what I get in Nintendo Today the same thing that you get in Nintendo
I
Today?
think people get different things
That
in
is
Nintendo
so
today.
funny to me.
We're both opening up our phones right now so we can compare what is on the home screen for Nintendo Today for both of us. So I've got the first post here in my feed is the action intro punch. For
Okay,
Donkey Kong.
yeah,
Okay, so
uh-huh,
we are
yes.
the same there. The Switch 2.
Okay.
Yeah, today. Okay, all right.
Detaching Joy-Cons, and then from Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong.
Okay, so we are getting
Okay, so
the same
maybe
right
it
now.
is the same stuff, but I feel like sometimes, like in the Discord, people will be
Right.
posting about things like, "Oh, this is in my Nintendo."
Wait, can you scroll to the top of yours?
Oh,
for
to
a
the
second?
top, yeah.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Today.
Okay, yeah, and because we have different themes.
Yeah,
so,
I have
like,
mine set to be like random or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I feel like people are posting in Discord about what they see, and it's not always what I have in my feed, but maybe I don't know why that happens.
Yeah, I don't know either. I gotta say, the Nintendo Today app, every post that they have that is like a little video, they gotta get rid of that ESRB rating. I can't, if I'm watching like a 7-second video, I can't have 2 of those seconds be an ESRB rating. It's infuriating. It makes it almost unusable.
I also think that like it's really frustrating to click into something
Yes.
and have it be
Nothing.
have it be like a video that you have to like that doesn't take up the entire like screen. Just have it be
Yes.
a vertical video. Nintendo, get into it.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. People are watching these things on their phones. Yeah, I mean it's they're I don't know, either dialing this in or it's bad. Who knows?
I do think they have these like little Pikmin things sometimes. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
what they're called. Like
The motion comics.
not the motion comics, the little videos
Oh.
like what is this? And it's a extreme close up of a everyday item, like household item.
Okay, so
and then
I
it
don't think
zooms
I've
out.
seen that. Before.
Okay, they have shown up before. But they are reused from when you're riding like the subway system in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
They play those on the trains there. Anyways, my next one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My
Do you think we're ever going to be able to post to Blue Sky from Switch 2?
Nope.
Great.
Miyamoto or senior leadership of any kind. No Shinya Takahashi.
Yes.
No Nintendo president on Shintaro Furukawa. Not one to be in front and center in presentations. He talks in investor Q&As, but otherwise he is not like a face of Nintendo.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday's episode, but like all we got were the 3 new guys, 3 younger guys. Obviously, they're in senior positions working on Switch 2, but like they were all hardware guys. We didn't talk to any game guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked to game people at the third-party studios, but yeah, all of the like sort of senior leadership, creative Nintendo guys nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. No like familiar faces.
That's right. And I feel like that kind of feeds into the no dumb little sketches or whimsy, or I mean, I think maybe your note was more about like the system itself, and mine was a little bit more about the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
But like part of having Iwata and Reggie and Miyamoto meant that they were turning into puppets, and it was going to be a thing for Star Fox, right? Like,
right.
The personalities were sort of plugged into the goofier parts of the presentations, and now they're just like no goofy parts, no none of our guys that do the goofy stuff. You mentioned Koizumi in the original Switch reveal, like that's just sort of like an expression of his personality, him like draping himself over the couch.
Yeah, no Koizumi. I believe that Koizumi will show up the next time
Totally.
a Mario game is announced.
Right.
I think Shinya Takahashi is could be the host of the Switch 2 Directs,
Yes.
going forward. So it's not that I think they're banished forever. I just think it's interesting that they were not a part of this presentation at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Very strange. I only have one more thing.
I also just have one more thing.
Okay, great. So my and this is one, Mark, that I did not feel great about.
Oh, good, because mine is also one that so we're
Very good.
finishing strong.
We're yeah. Why do we do this way? We could structure it any way we want. And with the little caveat here that this may not even be the place for me to voice this.
Okay.
But we got the reveal of the GameCube Nintendo Classics library. We didn't get any kind of assurance that games would continue to come to the other libraries. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if this is if that's needed or if it's necessarily the place for it. But like, it would have been such an easy and look for more games in these other libraries in the future.
Yeah.
Are they done?
I don't think so. Part of the reason I don't think so is because
we haven't seen Mole Mania on Game Boy.
You haven't seen Mole Mania on Game Boy, but also because then at the base level,
right,
there would be no new games being added, and that doesn't feel
no new games being added
at
the on the Switch 1 either.
Right.
And
that doesn't feel likely to me.
Yeah.
Plus, it's been once they get through their initial, and these other games will be coming in the future, they rarely refresh that to say, and here's gonna be a new wave that you can look forward to in the next 6 months. They just kind of go quiet, and then every 18 months or whatever, the Sega Genesis library will be updated with 4 titles. Yeah. And so I kind of expect that to be the pattern going forward.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty likely. I bet we get a drop of just on regular NSO before Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Right? Like a 2 Game Boy games, a Super NES game, and an NES game, something along those lines.
I wanted to ask you, the NSO thing reminded me, I wanted to ask you, I hadn't really thought about it before until I saw some discussion about it online. The fact that there is a dedicated button on Switch 2 controllers, the C button, that it only can be mapped to a feature that you have to pay for. If you're not signed up for Nintendo Switch Online, then that C button doesn't have any utility, doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
Is that weird? It didn't strike. I didn't even think about it because I've been signed up for Nintendo Switch Online since it was available. I will continue to be signed up for Nintendo Switch Online. But is that weird?
And obviously with the caveat that it'll be free for everyone to use until March 31st next year. It is a little weird. Honestly, it's weird that there will be a button on the controllers that will be non-functional for some players.
Right. What happens if you press it and you're not subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online? Will be an ad for Nintendo Switch Online? Cops
at the door.
That's right.
You're going to jail.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
I also had not thought about this until you brought it up just now, but that is a weird thing. I guess there are buttons on the, there's a microphone on the PS5 DualShock controller that is used for game chat, and if I'm not signed up for PlayStation Plus, I can't play games online and therefore couldn't talk online.
But can you get into group chats on PlayStation without? I honestly I can't.
I don't
remember.
think so.
I haven't owned a PlayStation, for.
It's probably in Fortnite you could, but right, because Fortnite bypasses everyone's need to sign up for an online gameplay service.
But you know how that you can at least you could on the PlayStation 4, and I'm assuming you can on the PlayStation 5. That just in the system menu you can start a group chat, and then I could be playing a game, you could be playing a game. They could be different games, but we're still chatting as part of PlayStation. Is that paid exclusive? I don't know. I don't know.
I think it is, but I also don't. I don't actually know.
Yeah, but just I hadn't thought about it before. So yeah, it is interesting. I wonder what that experience will be like if you if you're not signed up for Nintendo Switch Online. You just have a dedicated.
Yeah, I don't know. And you and I will never know.
Yeah, I know. We never will. We never will. Because I can't let my Nintendo Switch Online subscription lapse, because what if the pre-orders for the Switch
Yes.
3
Yes.
are like for people who have had 10 plus years
of uninterrupted
yeah,
paid
that's
Nintendo
right.
Switch Online.
That's right.
And upgraded to the expansion pack within the first 3 days of it being available. Yeah.
Okay, my final one that I also don't feel that good about, because it kind of falls into the Animal Crossing and Splatoon territory.
Ooh, it's another game.
It is. It's a 3D Mario. It's a new 3D Mario platformer. I certainly expected a new 3D, Mario game to be as part of the Switch 2 announcements, to be in this launch year. And obviously, instead, we got Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Seems to be filling that slot for sure.
But I do think it's crazy to me that we have not had a 3D Mario game for 8 years.
Yeah.
Since Odyssey.
Yeah.
Since the Switch launched, there's not been a new 3D Mario game, and that there's no, like, we're obviously getting Mario things, but
we're getting Mario thing, right? Like it really is just Kart, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I guess like you could argue the Mario Party like add-on stuff, but like yeah, nothing else really like new. They could have done Mario wheelchair basketball. They could have done that.
They could have done that.
Mario 3-on-3 wheel hoops.
Uh-huh.
Right? They could have done that.
But yeah, I mean, yes, on the one hand, it falls into the same category as Animal Crossing and Splatoon, or even 3D Zelda. That's another one, like the next
Sure.
mainline Zelda. But to me, it feels different from Zelda and I guess Animal Crossing and Splatoon, just because of the time
Yes.
it has been since the last 3D entry.
Yeah, and I guess like the also the Super Mario Brothers movie was this insane success, and like did Wonder draft off of that like to the fullest extent? Like I don't know, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. And like Donkey Kong Bonanza feels like it is positioned to similarly like ride that like wave in popularity, right? Because Donkey Kong's a big part of that movie, and this kind of feels more in line with that than it does with like the old country games. But yeah, why not also 3D Mario, right?
Right. Well, yeah, but I guess I don't know. Like I can also see it because Bonanza seems like it's doing its own thing, but also you can see the DNA. I feel like of Odyssey in
Totally,
there.
yeah.
But however big a Donkey Kong game could be, nothing's going to replace a new 3D Mario, and so I am still expecting to see a new 3D Mario relatively soon. But that could be a year or two from now.
You say that, but it makes me wonder, and I've never really looked into this before, but the obviously Odyssey sold really well, right? But prior to that, don't the 3D Mario games have a reputation of being less successful than their like 2D counterparts?
That is true until Odyssey, for sure.
Odyssey,
that was like
yeah.
I think that was absolutely true. Yeah, I think that was totally true.
Right,
They're just less approachable.
Yeah, right. And but for some reason, like either because Odyssey doesn't feel like more approachable necessarily, but just like, or it is, but only by virtue of the fact that like the general gaming audience caught up to it.
Well,
right?
And also think like, yeah, I think that's exactly it. Because think back to the last time there was a game like that. Arguably, you could say Galaxy 2.
Yes.
And so you had like an entire generation of games where open world games just became like expected and massive. And so
yes,
like I think everybody became more comfortable with 3D platformers in a way that in previous generations that was not the case.
Well, and like beyond 3D platformers, just like 3D games in general, like people understand moving around a character and a camera in a 3D space.
Speaking of which, it will be really interesting to see what the limit like on Donkey Kong Bonanza is, because there has not been a 3D Donkey Kong game since Donkey Kong 64.
Right.
And I feel like Donkey Kong has kind of like when Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze were released, was like 2D platformers that were not Mario, like new Super Mario Brothers games,
Right.
were like they've never been as popular.
Yes. Well, and the fact that the versions of them that appear on Switch are like remakes or re-releases, so they already have this like sheen of being like a little bit lesser than. Um, and then we're also like totally beaten in sales by New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe anyway. Um, what's interesting is like I do think that in a lot of ways we're seeing DNA of the country games. Obviously, it's a 3D Donkey Kong game, so it calls to mind Donkey Kong 64. This feels like it is a different beast entirely, right? Like its design aesthetic and like the goals of the game are not really in conversation with previous Donkey Kong games kind of at all. I was at one point going to try to like form an argument that like this is a like brand new Nintendo like franchise that we're seeing here in uh a Donkey Kong Bonanza.
I think you're right. Um, I feel like it will be interesting to see because is Donkey Kong Bonanza like the start of? Let me rephrase this a different way.
Yeah.
I think one thing that makes 3D Mario really unique is that there's no expectation really that a new 3D Mario game is going to be what it's like will spawn its own franchise.
Sure.
There's no expectation after Odyssey came out that all Mario games are going to be like Odyssey now. The expectation is almost the
Right.
opposite. It's like,
Right.
wow,
What
it's
will
going to
the
be
next
really
thing
cool
be?
to
Yeah.
see what the next thing is. I don't think that's true of any other Nintendo franchise, even even the Zelda series.
Right.
I think that has an expectation. It's like, okay, this is the template from
Right.
which like, oh, all
Yes.
these things are templatized. And so is Bonanza going to be the start of a new franchise, like you said, where it's like, oh yeah, we could get a Bonanza 2
Yeah, right,
that's
right,
doing
right.
the same thing? Or is it more in the vein of 3D Mario, where it's like, well, we did Bonanza, where can we take Donkey Kong next?
Yeah, and I think that's actually more what I mean. But like they will still have the sort of like jumping off point, just like like do we can obviously consider 64 Sunshine Galaxy to be like a part of a singular franchise, even though all those games are so different, right? And I think that whatever Donkey Kong does next, it'll be that same sort of
I
relationship.
see what you're saying.
So like a franchise in the looser sense, where it's just like here's what we do with Donkey Kong in a 3D space, and that 64 is like not really part of that same conversation.
Right. It's Donkey Kong is now about destruction and like environment destruction
Yes.
and like exploration
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And like Donkey Kong 64 is just Banjo-Kazooie 3. I don't know.
Right, right.
Like
Right.
it's part of that soup over there from Rare. But sorry, how do we get on all of
3D
this?
Mario.
3D
That was
Mario.
my that
No
was
3D
that was my
Mario.
final missing.
Did you have a like something in mind or in your heart that you wanted for 3D Mario? Like a surprise? I know you'd said previously you didn't want to see Odyssey 2.
Yeah, that's right. I think because it's been so long, it would be disappointing at this
Yeah.
point if it was just like 10 years later, here's Odyssey 2.
Yeah, that's no good. The distance between Galaxy and Galaxy 2 was like 2-3 years, something like that. I think 3 years.
Yeah, well, let's see. Galaxy 2 came out in 2010. I'm not sure when Galaxy came out. So yeah, 2 or 3 years, let's say.
Yeah. The statute of limitations is over. We cannot revisit Mario Odyssey at this point.
Yeah.
As like a new entry in the like that strict series. Okay. Anything else come up, Mark, in your brain as we were talking here about what wasn't here in the Switch 2 Direct?
No, I think we nailed it.
I think, Mark, I think you're right. Let's close this out. Of course, if you, listener, have examples of things that you felt were missing from this Direct, email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or frankly, get in that Discord because we are, I'm sure, going to be talking about this through the weekend and all that good stuff. I'm sure there's other stuff that Fire Emblem.
Oh, yeah.
Where Are they working on a remake of Genealogy of the Holy War or whatever?
I still think you're right that there could be a Fire Emblem game for original Switch.
Yes, I think that's probably more likely. Because why not?
Why not?
It's a perfect place to put it.
Oh, do it.
I bet it'll be beautiful.
We dare you.
Nintendo, we dare you. And we're scolding you in advance for not doing it. I'm excited about the GameCube one coming to
Yeah, never played it before.
That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much to our 16-bit patrons, Connor McCabe, Patrice Millette, Kyle Seaborn, Drew Mackey, and Steve-O. Thank you to everyone who's listening to this or engaging with us in any way. We appreciate it. It makes this show and this community all the richer. So Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.